I totally missed that. Do that. Did you do that again?
Okay, so move your just take your king and try to move it over 2 squares. No, your king. Okay, that's fine.
Oh, my bad.
That's fine. That's fine. Just take your king and try to move it over to the G1 square.
Gotcha. Oh, that's a thing. I will say I have been practicing off stream. You know, it's pretty easy to get a game going, just like right off the phone. So I was just practicing. I lost every single match.
Right. That's kind of what I would expect. So actually, I sent you an invite, so you should see a thing in the bottom right hand side. There should be an invite. Or did I send it to the wrong?
Yes, I see it. Got it. Analysis board.
All right. Exactly. So where I want to start is just with a very basic with very basic checkmates. So like a queen, as I think you know, is the most strongest piece on the chessboard. It's worth roughly 9 points. No other piece is worth the same amount of material, and it's because the queen can go in basically every which way, in a way that wait, one
that's
sec.
you doing all this right now, right? You're controlling all this?
Yeah, that's me doing it. You can also make moves on the board. So all right. So yeah, sorry about that. Okay. So the queen is the strongest piece on the board and can move every which way. Let's say even if your king goes here, it's just it moves every single direction, and it's just by far and away the most powerful piece in a way that no other piece as a single piece can confront the queen.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to start with is basically this king and queen checkmate, because it's a very it's very actually straightforward. So what you want to do is you want to force this king into one of these 4 corners.
Okay.
And so the way you would, I guess I'll try to explain it move by move. So the way you do that is, let's just say you start with a queen here. The king has 1, 2, 3 squares to go to. Now it can go to any of these 3 squares, but the pattern is going to be the same. So let's say the king goes back.
Wait. So that was because if where he was, any of those other positions, he would die. So you just can't even move in that direction.
Right. So you can't go to any of these 5 squares because the queen covers every single square.
Yeah. Okay.
So and also it's important, one thing, especially when you have like queens and rooks, is that one thing that's very important is that the queens and the rooks control these files going up and down the board, or from like side to side, for example.
Yeah.
So the king can never run over to this side of the board because this queen just stops it completely. So it's stuck on like these 4 these four lines of the board.
Gotcha.
So so if the king goes here, for example, you'd move the queen here, and do you see what's happening? The king is getting cut even further. Like now the king is 1 line off. So the goal is to get the king onto this edge of the board, basically.
Okay, I see.
So again, there still are only 3 moves for the king.
Let me ask you though. So you said the goal is to get the king to one of the 4 corners. Is that always the best case, or is that the best case because right now you have a king and a queen to work with?
Right now it's because you have a king and a queen. When your opponent only has a king here and you have the king and queen, you're trying to checkmate it. But normally the king is probably going to end up on one of these corners of the board anyway. Because what happens in a normal game is normally you castle your king out of the center of the board. You know, you castle your king to the center of the board. What does that mean? No, it means you castle the king out of the center of the board. So you move from the castle over.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So you want to slowly move your king over, and then so you have like a castle on, let's say, G8, and then your king is on H8?
Your king is on G8, and your rook actually goes from the H8 square to the F8 square. So the 2 highlighted squares that I made.
Oh, okay, I see.
But that's more that applies to the opening part of the game. Whereas I'm talking about just a very simple forced way to checkmate the king.
Huh. Okay.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that, because I will show you some basic stuff in terms of what you want to do at the start of the game. But first, I want to start with like something very, very, very basic, which is here. Basically, you keep the queen 1 square from the king, so the king has to keep going back. Let's say the king goes to this square. It's now 1 more file over towards the edge of the board. So the king goes over like this way, you move the queen down, you keep it 1 square from the king, but now you'll see the king is stuck here. It can't go back towards the center of the board.
I see. It makes it a lot easier as well, just like thinking of just like a line border. You're just like constantly moving a huge line down until you just corner the king. So
right, and so black, if black goes here, now you would bring your queen up, and the king now is on the final. It's on this H file. It's on the final line of the board. So the queen basically creates this barrier where the kings can't go over. So the way you would checkmate once the king is on the very side of the board is if the king goes up, because it's the only square now, right? Because it can't come down. If it comes down, you would capture the king.
Yeah.
And these squares are completely covered by the queen.
So what if you just move your king constantly to the right?
You mean with white?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to do that, but the thing is, you force the king to 2 squares on the end of the board, and then you bring the king. So the way that you would actually checkmate here is the king has to go back, so you move the queen up 1 less square, right? It can't come here.
Yep.
So now it has to go here. Then you move the queen here. Again, 1 less square, right?
Yeah. I got you. Okay.
So the king has to go here, and now when the king is stuck with the 2 squares here, now what you do is you bring your king in.
I see. Okay.
And also, to be clear, this is the same thing, by the way. You can also put the queen here where the king is still stuck on the back rank of the board, but the king still only has 2 squares. So basically, you want this construction, or you want it with the queen here where it has these 2 squares. But you always want the king to have 2 squares to go to, whether it's this H7 square and H8 square, or whether it's the G8 and H8 square.
Okay. And then I can also see if you ended up.
You
So
can make
technically,
moves too. You can make moves also on the board, so you can also make moves.
But so I see. Okay, so like you always, I'm just gonna control white then. So technically, you would never want the queen here. You would never want the queen on the corners. You always want to essentially leave the queen's line on.
Well, actually,
G or B.
Actually, this is it's very good you put the queen here. So, for example, what is wrong with putting your queen here in this position?
So the queen, well then would it be? It would be black's move.
Right.
Oh,
so black
I
would take
just,
the queen.
Yeah, exactly.
So now, but if your queen was here and there was another piece protecting the queen, what would that be? Would black be able to move the king ever?
Wait, my bad. Can you repeat that?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll make some moves to give you an example. So the way you checkmate here is quite simple. I'm just going to show you relatively quickly. So you bring the king and you put the queen here. Can black capture this queen?
No, because then the king can just
right, exactly.
Get the queen. Yeah, the king can get him then.
Right. So
it wouldn't even let you make that move though, right?
No, because it's checkmate.
Yeah.
So checkmate is when you're threatening to capture the king basically, and your opponent can't move the king anywhere without it being taken. So if you could move the king here, you would capture. If you move the king up, I would capture. If you try to capture, my king would capture your king. So checkmate is when you're attacking the king and your opponent cannot move the king anywhere, which means it's the end of the game. Now let me give you another example. Let's say in this position, you put your queen here. Do you know what this is? Can black move the king?
Yes. Can't he move it to G8? But then no, because then the next move, the queen can just take him out. What if... I don't see an opening. Isn't that checkmate?
No, this is called stalemate, actually. So what this means is that if you're not threatening to capture the king and the king can't move anywhere, the game ends in a draw. It's a tie.
Oh, okay. I had a game where the king, the other guy, he just kept running with the king. I could never chase him.
Right. So this is why I'm showing you how to checkmate. Because actually, once I show you this pattern, even if you were playing against me, you'd be able to checkmate me, knowing this pattern. So
I see.
The point I was making is with the queen, you keep it 1 square away from the king, and once the king is like on the edge of the board, like this, you make sure the king has 2 squares. So if you see this position, it's the same thing, just a different version, because the king is cut this way.
Yep.
Whereas in the other one, like here, it's the same thing. The king is cut this way. But it's actually the same thing, just like the board is kind of rotated. The queen is rotated.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so once you get the queen where the king only has 2 squares on like this back rank or like going up this way, the way you win is then you move the king all the way up the board and you put the queen on the square right in front of the king.
I see, I see. Okay. So once the queen is in position, then it's all about getting the king
right
into the checkmate position.
Exactly. So what happens is black at the start of this this checkmate, black tries to keep the king in the center of the board as long as he can, but eventually when he keeps going back, you keep pushing this king, and the king is going to have to eventually go back towards the corner of the board.
Yeah.
So do you want to try to do it?
I mean, I have a question though. Can, in this situation, the king could potentially win?
No, it can't.
Or
win.
black could win. Is there no way? It's just
no.
And
So in order to win the game, like for example, if you only have kings on the board, the position would be a draw. You can't checkmate if you only have 1 king on the board. You need to have other forces. You have to have pawns or bishops or knights and rooks to checkmate.
I see, I see. Okay, and that's why stalemate is a thing then. So, assuming if you mess up here, if white messes up, black can buy enough time in order to just stalemate?
Well, black can just keep moving the king all over the board, basically. If you don't force the king somewhere, the king just keeps moving randomly all over the board. So you have to put the king in checkmate, or else it would be a tie, because the king can just keep moving everywhere.
Yep. Okay. I see. So I mean, I can try. I'm probably gonna. I'll try.
Yeah, no. It's not that hard. Just remember, you always want to keep the king, and you want to slowly force it back and keep the queen 1 square from the king. And then once it's on the back rank, you have to bring the king.
Okay, sure.
So remember here, you're keeping you have this board of this line. The king can't cross.
And you said keep 1 away. So then if I end up moving just 1 up with the queen to green, that would still work, right?
This is the best
You still
move,
have a
right?
line. Okay.
So I can't come over to this side. So let's say I just go here.
What if I just go up from here because I'm still holding the line?
This is correct.
And then just go up again.
Okay. So now I'm going to go this way.
So from here, I can still keep the line. What if I go... What if I just
remember you want to keep using the queen? Right, but one thing to point out. So the king was on this line, right?
Yeah. So
can you now force the king to... The king is 1 over. So how do you control the line? Because you want to cut the king off by this next line on this E file.
What if I bring the queen here?
Good.
Am I still a block? I guess...
Yeah, because the king can't cross now.
Because you're still a block over... Yeah, I got you. Okay, sure.
Okay, so now I want to stay on this line. If let's say I go here, I've gone 1 over.
And I come right here?
Yes, exactly. Okay, so now I go here. Okay, and now I will go here. Go here. And now...
Dude, I wish I knew this on my first placement match.
See, but this is where you have to be careful. So you just put the queen here, and this is stalemate. The king has
no
no
I messed up.
Yeah, so the point I was making is once you
okay.
get the king to the edge of the board where it has the 2 squares, then you keep the king, you just stabilize, you just leave this queen here. And what do?
Is this now when you start utilizing the king?
Right, so think of it this way. So you've cut the king off as many lines as you can. The king is on the very edge of the board. There's no other line to go to off the board. There's no next file. So now the king is only the 2 squares.
Yeah.
And the king can never attack the queen. Now you want to bring in the king, the reinforcement, and make the checkmate.
Just out of curiosity though, like assuming, because knowing me, I would mess up, and let's say I just moved the queen here, just visually. I don't know how to make so if the king comes, he can't come down. It wouldn't let him come down.
Right.
So in this situation, wait, what would the king do in this situation though?
Well, the game just ends. The game just ends. It's stalemate. The game would be tied.
Oh, so this wouldn't be considered a win for white. This would be stalemate.
No, and actually, like XQC, to talk about streamers, he's done this many times where he's put the king in a corner where it can't move, in a position where it's completely winning. So the thing is, when you have a lot more, like especially when you have queens and you have queens or you have rooks, you always want to make sure that if the king has no squares, you're threatening to capture the king.
Okay. So so then that makes sense why this is the ideal situation. It seems like you'd be tempted to make that move just to go in for the kill, but that's just not how it works.
Right, because
so yeah, exactly. You'd be moving the king. I mean, wouldn't it make sense then to just? So what if I move the king up?
Sorry. Yeah.
And then yeah, he can move down, but I can just keep moving diagonal and then.
Right, but remember, you want your king on this side, not on the same side as the king. You want it on the other side of the king.
Okay, I'm just trying to visualize too. So let me just make the line. The lines help, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna. So hypothetically, if I were to do this, because I'm still learning by just making a wrong move. So like hypothetically, if I move this and then, okay, so then if I just move up. And then move up. And then I wouldn't be able to move up here because then he could take the king.
Well, yeah, you kings can't be attacking each other. So yeah, you can't move the king up to either of these squares.
See, that's the thing. So wait, kings can't. When you say kings can't be attacking each other? It's not like a king can attack a king, but in this situation,
no, a king can never. Kings can never be on squares right next to each other. The kings can't attack each other. And actually, the king can't attack. I mean, the only piece that kings can really attack are pawns. I guess at the end of the game, kings can attack everything. But like a queen or a rook, the queen especially, like here, the king can't attack the queen.
Yeah, I got you. Because any move he makes, it's going to be white's turn, and it's like he can't.
Right, because you would capture the king, exactly.
Yeah. So then if we go back, so you said... I don't know how to go back with white all the way, but let's say whatever. I'm in this position. Even though I made this move, this is wrong. He's still stuck. Even though I made an error,
right,
I can still be making moves. So.
And now? Yeah, this is fine, but actually, remember the pattern. So you want to make sure this king can't move anywhere. So you've brought your king really close to the king. So there's a way that you can attack the king again, where the king cannot go anywhere because it's stuck on the edge of the board here.
So he can't. Okay, so then if I end up bringing the king, But you said the king can't attack a king. If I put the king here, does that make sense? It's blocking the queen though, because that's a bad move though, because then the king can escape.
Right, but think of it this way: you can never attack the king with your king, but the way the king functions here is it helps you use the other piece to attack the king. So like one thing I would say is in general, if you go back to the beginning, the queen is a very powerful piece. Even the rook is very powerful, but with one piece alone, just like a queen, you can never checkmate the king. You need to use another piece to help the queen or to help the rook make the checkmate. So at this point, there is one move here with the queen that leads to checkmate.
So wait, so what is this the correct position for the king to be in right here?
Yes, the king should be on this square. The correct move is to play this move, actually. And the king supports the queen, and you make the checkmate.
Oh, no shit. I see. Because no matter what, he's going to either... Okay, I mean, that makes sense, clearly. He makes the move,
and I'll give you another example. I'll give you another example as well. So remember how I said... let me go back a few moves. Remember how I said at this point you could also have this one? It's the same mirror, basically. It's just a different way of creating this border, this line from the king. If the king goes here, it's the same pattern for the checkmate that I just showed you. So now the king has the two squares.
Yep.
Remember,
should I make a move?
Yeah, go for it.
So, I mean, what if I reposition the queen here then?
You can, but remember what I said when the king only has the two squares? Whether it's these two squares, what do you want to do when it's on the very back and it only has two squares? You want to go for the checkmate because you've gotten the queen to the ideal position. So
And this, oh wait, so is this coming in from this perspective? So, because you said the board is flipped, so you're
right,
blocking
exactly.
him this way?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what if you just stay on this line? What if I go back this way then?
You can, but then I bring my king over.
Huh.
So the way you checkmate is once the king gets these two squares, you want to bring the king in and deliver the checkmate.
So wait, so the queen, so if you have two blocks right here and the queen, this is the ideal position for the queen right here.
Right.
There's no reason to move the queen from this position.
Exactly. You just leave it there and let the king keep moving in these on these two squares.
And is this only because the king has two squares?
Yeah, because on the very edge of the board and it only has the two squares, you do leave it here. Yeah.
Whereas in this position previously, the king just was stuck in.
It was the same thing,
one.
but it's a different two squares. You see, like the queen here, it's the exact same thing, just a different line. But the king still only has the two squares here. It's the same as it's the exact same as this one where the king only has two squares. It's just it's flipped. But the mating pattern is the exact same. When the king stays on the corner of this, when the king has only these two squares, you bring the king up. Just one square at a time. And then what's the last move? Once the king gets to this square where it protects this critical square.
So if you end up, well, the way it was before the, what if I move the queen like this?
Right, but what happens now?
But then,
are you threatening to capture the king?
Well, you're blocked off. No, but then he can move, can't he?
Are you sure?
Hold on, just do the right move. Let me see it.
Yeah, okay. So this is the right move. Now, remember, you want to put the queen on the square where the king is here, and a king can't move, okay?
Yeah.
So the king supports the queen.
Yeah.
And actually, it's the same thing. Even if you reach, well, let me play just to show you the other side. If the king is here, it doesn't matter which square in the corner the king is on. You move the queen here, and this is also checkmate because the king supports the queen.
Oh, I was trying to do that. I think I did it in 2 moves by accident.
Okay.
If that made sense.
Right. So this is the checkmate, and now I'll show you the other pattern because you basically got it up to you were basically there till the very end, which is in this position. You see the king is cut. It only has these two squares. The king can't come over on this line.
Yeah.
So you do the exact same thing. You now bring the king up to this square again. Go here. Okay, so actually play the next 2 moves, or the next 3 moves, because you should see it.
Okay, so from here, I'm trying to, you'd want to bring the king up 1. Wouldn't you want to bring the king here and then...
And I go here.
And then
it's the exact same
up.
pattern. I go here. And now what is the final move? So the king controls this critical square, right?
Yeah.
So how do you attack the king?
What if I bring the king down and then bring the queen back up so it forms the pattern?
Well, the pattern is the same actually. It's just the board is shifted because the king is cut by this line. So I'll just show you what the move is. The move is queen here. And this is checkmate again. Do you see why? Because the king again guards
it's
the queen.
hard to visualize, but then when you do it, it's like, no shit, that's exactly it. So no, that totally makes sense because then the king gets that makes sense. So he will go and kill the queen, but the white king gets the last
laugh. Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah.
So the checkmate pattern is the exact same, and now like I'll do it on the other side of the board. Let me just let me make some random moves just to force the king over to this side of the board. And so it's the exact same pattern. What is the square that you want to put the queen on here? It's the exact same pattern, but flip the board. So the king has 2 squares here, right?
Yeah.
So what is the square you want to put the queen on to attack the king and make the checkmate?
So
Would this be a good square to put the queen on?
no, because then the king could kill the queen right there.
Right, but if the king was protecting the queen, then it would be checkmate.
Yes. So if you end up...
So remember, the king has 2 squares again. It's the same thing but the other side of the board. So when the king only has the 2 squares, you want to move the queen and make the checkmate.
So right now, I know you said I mean, hypothetically, okay, just so I can picture this. If I move the queen here, I feel like I'm safe here. You still have the line covered here. If the king ends up moving here,
The king can't move though.
So why is this a bad move right here?
It's stalemate. The king can't move, so the game is over and it's a draw.
Oh, okay.
That's why you want to make sure.
So
the
you're
king
trying to
always has 2
prevent
squares.
stalemate as well. That's the thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, you just always want to make sure your opponent has a square for the king. So
Wait, can you read that? Your opponent always has a square for the... Oh, okay. You always want to have it so the...
Yeah, like here the
opponent...
king can move here. Like even if you move here, king still has a square, and the king has a square here. The king always has these 2 squares to move between.
Okay. So then... Oh, I see. So then hold on, just so I can see it. So if I did move it and then he moves here, that is stalemate. Okay. So then what's stopping me? I don't know how to go back.
I just hit the back arrow. It's fine.
Oh, gotcha. So then just so I can visualize it as well, if I end up moving the queen here,
then my king just starts coming back towards the center of the board.
Yep, I see. Because I'm giving him another space. Okay.
So what you want to do is the king has these 2 corner squares. You want to bring the king and make checkmate here.
Oh, so okay. So yeah, this was the ideal position for the queen then.
Yeah, it's just the board. It's just the king is shifted. It's on the other side, so it's the squares are inverted, but it's the same pattern.
So then, if we move the king, I'm just gonna keep. Let me see. We keep going up, and now from here. You still have 2 places to move. Okay, hypothetically.
But the king is close now.
Yep. So, but hypothetically, if I do move it here, I can't. But if I were to, it wouldn't let me move it here. So if I move the king here.
Okay. But remember, you wanna attack the king. But you can't attack the king with your king, can you? You need to use your queen.
No. So, I'm trying to also just see, because I do know essentially the lineup is like this is what you want, where the queen is here,
right?
And then the king is here.
Yeah, so this is the correct move. This is checkmate.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, exactly.
So
I was picturing it diagonally. Oh yeah, so I guess yeah.
Right, but you can also do it diagonally like this as well with the sorry, one second. Like you can also do it this way with this diagonal, the king supporting the queen. You can do it on either of these squares.
Oh, okay.
But now, like, to go back to the other one, it's the exact same thing. It's just a different kind of checkmate. So I'll show you this one. Do you see how it's the same thing?
Yep.
It's the same thing. It's just on the other side of the board, and the colors are different on that side of the board, but the checkmate is the exact same.
Yeah.
So the point is basically you want to get the king where it has these 2 squares, and you want to move the queen with the king's protection and make the checkmate.
Gotcha.
Okay. So do you want to try to do the mate one time? Just back.
Yeah. Let me try again.
Sure. Yeah, it's fine.
So let's see. Let's get the queen into position. So always 1 block. So I'm gonna go up 1. Go up 1.
Okay, I'll go here.
Up again.
Okay, now I'll go this way.
Down.
Okay. Okay.
We almost got you into position.
Right.
So, all right, perfect. Still 1 block, right?
Okay.
So, and then I go here. So we're forming the picture right now. So right there, ideal position for the queen. Now the king comes into play.
Think about it closely. What remember you want the king to always have squares, right?
Yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. So wait, just my bad. So if I did put the queen here, oh yeah, he wouldn't be able to move. So this would this be considered a stalemate right here?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So okay. Right there makes sense because he has a block. So we have this and this. So he's still able to move on that one.
Right.
Okay. So I'm gonna start moving the king over.
Okay. Right. Okay. Exactly. Perfect. That's checkmate.
There you go.
So the point is, like, with this checkmate, it's a pattern that, like, there's nothing that I can do to prevent it. That's why I'm showing it to you, because it's something where, like, no matter what move I make with my king, you can use the queen to force the king to the edge of the board and make this checkmate no matter what. And the other reason it's important is, remember this queen, when it's right next to the king like this, as long as the queen is protected by a piece, that leads to a checkmate. So, like,
as long as the queen is, can you repeat that? As long as the queen is protected by a piece.
So, like, let's just say I have, instead of a king, this king here was like a pawn, it would still be a checkmate. Because the pawn, because whatever it is that supports the queen, it threatens to capture the king, and the king has no squares.
Okay.
So, like, I'll give you, let me pull up another example. Let's see if I can do this one.
And once again, the cornering the king, is that specific to if you have a queen and king in play?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Let's see. Lirik undefeated 2020. Yeah, I don't know, Hikaru. I don't know if I'm kind of slow for you or not, but
No, it's fine. It's fine.
When did you start playing chess? How old were you?
I started when I was when I sent you an invite to this next board. I started when I was 7 years old, so I was quite young.
Damn, man. Were you playing ever since, like every day almost?
Pretty much, yeah, basically every day, more or less. Nice. Okay, so I set up another position. So this position, think about where the queen was in the last position we looked at. Is there somewhere you can move the queen to attack the king?
Hold up. I've never seen this piece. Is this supposed to be the knight?
No, this is the bishop. This
oh,
one,
I see the. Okay, I got you. I do see the bishop. Oh yeah, even the way it moves.
Yeah. So it moves
sure.
diagonal,
So
yeah.
Yep.
So is there somewhere that you can move this queen that was like the last puzzle, where you can put the queen to capture the king?
So let me see. Because we also have to watch out for the bishop and the queen now. So watching out, I would say.
I want you to attack the king and try to capture it here with your queen.
Hypothetically, I'm thinking F6 is the play.
Okay, so if you go here, are you attacking the king? Do you threaten to capture this king on the next move?
Wait. So I could threaten him on my first move from this right now?
Yeah, so move. Where can you move your queen to threaten to capture the king on the next move?
Let me see.
So if you think about,
I'm mainly looking at line 7 right now, and the only place I can move with the queen, line 7. If I go right here
to make the move,
honestly, I don't see it. Let's say if I go right here, it's not threatening. But hold up,
right.
Let me
is there another square you can go with the queen?
That wouldn't work either, because then the queen would kill my queen.
So how do you threaten to capture the king next move? So you want to move the queen somewhere where you want to capture the king with your queen on the next move.
Well, I don't know. I'm not seeing it, but
okay. So I'll show you.
I'm just picturing. So if I go here, obviously that wouldn't work. The king would kill me. If I go in this corner, the king would kill me.
Okay, so let's say you move the queen. I mean, I'll put the queen here. Both moves work, but let's say you move the queen here. Why can't the king capture the queen?
No, he could. So then wouldn't the king just? Oh, but then the bishop. he can't do that because then
Right.
the bishop's gonna kill him.
Right. So this is actually again checkmate.
Oh no shit. Oh yeah, I see it.
And you can also move the queen to this square as well, and it's also checkmate because the king still can't move.
Yep.
So the point is, again, this is like the last problem where it's like if you were to take, let's say you move the bishop here, you can't move this queen to any of these squares because the king just eats the queen.
Oh yeah, okay.
So that's why when I talk about the checkmate, like the king and queen, or even like this one, you really want to attack the king with the queen, but you always need a second piece. You need another piece that
you always need that
the
second defense. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Obviously, the king was right by the queen because direct counter bishop's like sniper or something.
Yeah, well, actually, I've used that term many times. The bishops are exactly like the snipers because what they do is they attack from long distance. So let me go back and let me just move some random pieces. Like even in a position like this, for example, okay?
Yeah.
What would you do with your bishop here?
Well, hypothetically, you could kill the queen here, but then the king would kill your bishop.
Right. So are you familiar with the piece values or not?
No, I am not. But I'm assuming king and queen are worth the most.
Well, the king doesn't really have a value because it's
because it's GG.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could, yeah. So it's like the queen is worth essentially 9 points.
Okay.
Rooks are worth 5 points. The bishops and the knights are worth 3 points, and pawns are worth 1 point. So if you can give up a bishop here for a queen, that would be a 3 for 9. I mean, you want to give up 3 points, but you're going to get 9 in return.
Oh, so and so that trade is worth sacrificing your bishop just because the queen's vulnerable right there is worth.
Yeah.
So wait, you said bishops, rooks. Wait, bishops and pawns are worth 3? And knights?
No, bishops and knights are worth 3. The bishop and the knight.
Bishop and knight is 3. Pawn is 1.
Right. Correct.
And then queen is 9.
Yes, and the rook is worth 5.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay.
So the point I was going to make here also is that if you look at this position, you see that bishop attacks the queen from very far away.
Mm-hmm.
So the bishops are the pieces that you want from very, very far back attacking. And even here, if you look at this bishop that black has, it tries to attack these pawns, but it's very far away. So the bishop is very much like a sniper where when it tries to capture your opponent's pieces, it's from distance. It's not from very close up.
I see. And if you're about to make that, if you were to make that move, it wouldn't be really smart to make that move because he gets 1 point where my queen can get 3 points by just countering, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay. All right. The point system 9, 5, 3, 1. Gotcha.
All right. So I think what we should do is we'll play a game. I'll try to guide you through a game. Let's do a game. Let's see, that should start it. Okay. So let's play a game. So what you want to do in the game of chess, I'll give you just push one of these pawns in front of your king and queen to start with.
Okay.
And 2 squares. Okay, that's
2
fine.
squares.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. But the point that I'm gonna make is what you want to do to start the game is you want to develop all these pieces, the knights and the bishops, and then get your king out of the center in the first 12 moves. So you want them, you see the bishops and the knights, you want them off of the original squares in the first 12 moves.
Bishops and then, okay, gotcha. Okay. So I'm not really thinking about this. I'm just going to get my knight out.
That's fine. Now pay attention to what I'm doing as well in terms of where I'm putting my knights.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Again, you do need to push your pawns to develop all of these pieces. You want them off their original square. So I'll do this.
So you want all pawns off their original squares? It's never beneficial?
I said, no, you want knights and bishops off their original squares.
Okay. So I'm also just want to get your expertise type thing. So it's like, I can't make a red mark, but if I were to move e3 to e4, it doesn't make sense. Actually, no, I could, because if you do attack with your...
It
wouldn't make sense to do that.
Exactly.
It wouldn't be a worthy trade, right?
Right. Exactly. Okay, so I'm just going to keep developing my pieces. And remember what I said. You want to get your knights and bishops off of their original squares in the first 12 moves. Okay, good. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to castle my king where I move the king out of the center. So I move it 2 squares to the right because I've moved all of these pieces out of the way. I moved my bishop and my knight out of the way so I can move my king over 2 squares. So try to find a way that you can get your king over 2 squares as well.
Yeah, okay. Wait, did you do that in one move? You were able to go.
Mm-hmm.
I must have missed it. How are you able to? Did you change the position of your?
Yes, it's called castling. It's a special rule. So, okay, what I'm going to ask you to do is move your bishop. Just move this bishop on the light square up 1 square to e2.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, I'll just play a random move. And now move your knight to the light square, f3.
My knight f3.
Yeah, your
move my knight to f3.
From
yes,
exactly. Okay, so I'm just gonna play another move. And now this is called castling. What you do is you would move your king from the dark square to the g1 square. You move the king over to, and the rook goes on the other side.
I totally missed that. Did you do that again?
Okay, so move your just take your king and try to move it over 2 squares. No, your king. Okay, that's fine.
Oh, my bad.
That's fine. That's fine. Just take your king and try to move it over to the g1 square.
Gotcha. Oh, that's a thing.
Yeah, that's castling. That's
So it auto moves the rook.
Yeah, so it's a special rule. It's the only rule. It's the only time in the game when the king can move 2 squares over. But you have to make sure that there's nothing in front of it to prevent it. So you have to make sure you move the knight and the bishop.
Oh, okay. So as long as the king has like a clear path, and to make it so he's right next to the rook, and then they will switch positions.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And then can you castle further?
No, that's it. That's just now the king just moves 1 square in any direction after that. You can't move your king 2 squares again.
But what if you're? I mean, what I'm saying is it stronger to have the king? So if you move king to h.
Generally, I would say at this point in the game, what you do is once you get the king out of the center, you want to try to play in the middle part of the board with your pawns. You don't really want to move your king again. You want to play with your pawns and play with the pieces like your knights and your bishops. But you definitely want to get the king out to begin with.
So G1, B1 is once your king is there, you're pretty. It's time to go into the middle.
Actually, when you try to castle the king the other way, it goes to C1, and the rook goes from A1 to D1. So. We'll just start a new game. So let me just start a new game.
Rematch?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I can also force it, but yeah, that's fine.
I honestly never knew you could do that.
Yeah, it's one of those special rules in chess. There are a couple other ones, but okay, so I'm gonna actually show you how to castle on the queen side now. So remember what I said, you want to develop your bishops and your knights and get your king out of the center of this board.
Okay.
So this is good. Okay, now this one thing that I will say is normally when you move the knights, you want to move them towards the middle of the board. So you like if you look at where my knights are, they're on the central squares, they're not on the edge of the board. So normally you want to put your knights more like in the central part of the board, like on these 2 squares where my knights are, rather than putting them on the edge of the board.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Okay, good move. Okay, so I will capture. Good. And now if I were to capture this pawn, what happens?
I could capture with the queen.
Right. And that's a good trade because you see I took one of your pawns, but you got a knight. So I got 1 pawn and you got a knight, which is 3 for 1, which is very good for you.
Does it show on chess? Does it show
I think
like
there's
points anywhere?
Yeah, actually, if you look right below your name, you'll see it says +2. It should show that. It should show 1 pawn and 1 knight. So it should show +2.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it doesn't really show. Is that actual the points, or is it just like +2?
That is. No, it is because it shows what you've captured and it shows the material balance. Because you captured a knight and a pawn, so that's 4, and I have captured 2 pawns. So if you look below my name, you'll see there should be 2 black pawns.
Oh yeah, I see them. Oh, they're kind of subtle. Yep.
Right.
Gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
Actually,
okay.
yeah, I'm looking at it as well. Yeah.
All right. So, well, I totally missed it. What move did you make right there?
I just pushed
C3.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay. So, okay. I think this would be good. I shouldn't be vulnerable here.
It's fine. Yeah. Yeah, again, you want to get your bishops and your knights and then move your king out of the center of the board. So actually, you're going to get to do it here first. So here, this is what's called queenside castling. So the king always goes over 2 squares. But on this case, it goes to the light square and the rook goes on the other side. So if you try to move your king over 2 squares to the light square. So this is called queenside castling. So
so that happens even from that range.
Yeah, so you can go either way. You can go both ways. If you go to the left, it's called queenside castling because it's to the left of the queen. If you go the other way, it's called kingside because the king and queen are in the center. So if you go to the right, it's called the kingside castle. If you go to the left side, left of the queen, it's called the queenside castle.
I see. And is there a benefit of doing one or the other? Does the side really matter that much, or is it kind of like?
It depends on the position, but normally going to the right is better. Like going to the G8 square is normally better than going to the left, but it depends. I would say for the most part though, you want to go to the right, not to the left.
So normally you want to go kingside.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, so I will take this.
Dude, I wonder if that's why isn't there a game with the map called, isn't Apex Legends, isn't there the map, isn't that called King's Castle or some shit? Am I thinking of that correctly, chat? I don't know.
Not sure.
I'm not sure. I swear I've heard of King's Castle used on like a map name in a game. It's probably where they get it from.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
So I can grab your bishop from here, right? Oh, King's Canyon. Damn it.
Okay.
That was the right move, right? I mean,
yeah, it was.
Point-wise, everything?
Yeah, because it was a knight for a bishop. And the other thing to remember is when you have the advantage like this, where you have 2 bishops and a knight, and I've got a bishop and a knight and a pawn. Normally, what you want to do is you want to try to trade off more of the things, because at the end, since the values are a bishop or a knight is worth more than a pawn, if you can get it down to that, the knight or bishop can move all over the board and capture more.
Okay. And also one more thing. So in this position, King's Castle is, even if my castle was on C8 and my king was on B8, that's still. Is there any advantage or is there any difference on utilizing DC or CB?
I would say the problem with the king being not on this B8 square yet, and this is why queenside castling is a little bit trickier, is because it's easier for your king to get attacked because you're gonna have to waste a move to move it over 1 square where it protects everything. So that's why normally going to the right is better than going to the left. Okay.
All right. So wait, what move did you just make? So you did.
I move my bishop up 1 square. You'll see the color when I move. When a piece moves, you see a color on that square.
Oh my god. So is that what like the yellowish color is? That's the move you just made.
Right. So I move the bishop up 1 square.
Okay. So from here, I feel like pawns are also like filler pieces, kind of. It's like, when you want to see what the opponent's gonna do, like move the rook.
Yeah,
the pawn or whatever.
So what the pawns do is they basically create space, is what they do. They create space so that your pieces can move behind them. They're sort of like the people at the front of the army. So you use them to make the space so that like your bishops can move behind them, or your queens and your rooks can move behind them.
Okay. All right, so I do know from here you could take my pawn on h6, and you can take. So I'm going to play defensively here, and I am going to just go back 1 with the bishop.
Oh, by the way, your king is already castled here, so like you can't move the king over 1 and the rook over 1. It's just 2 squares and that's it. And then the king moves normally, and every piece just moves. The king can only move 1 square, as can the rook. Like there's no more castling in the game anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was just that initial. Now that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, once you do it, then the king just moves normally 1 square in every direction.
Okay,
so I will do this.
Now I could use the queen and get your bishop, but then your pawn would.
Right. I have a pawn, I have a knight, I also have a queen that guard the bishop.
Okay, so.
Good move. Okay, now what's the next move? So I took one of your knights.
Oh, yes, you did. So I can't use my rooks here.
So one thing I would say is when you're making moves, look to see if there's anything for free to start with. I would say look to see if you can attack the king in any way where I can't take your queen. Can you do that here?
So,
don't make a move, but I'm asking a question. Can you move the queen anywhere to attack my king where you would threaten to capture it next move? Probably not, right?
Oh no, I was actually seeing if there was. I was like analyzing. I was like, so
Yeah.
wait, there isn't. Because I'm mainly looking at line 2, but I see
Right,
if
but I would
put,
just capture
there's,
it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when you see that there are no checks, the next step I would say beyond that, if there's no way to attack the king, is see if there's anything that you can capture where your opponent won't be able to won't be able to. Is there anything for free here, basically? That you
I
can
would
capture?
say it looks like knight. The knight. I'm pretty sure this is the safest move here.
And it's free, so that's a free knight that you can capture. So that's a very good move.
Okay.
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 So again, there are no checks.
Yeah.
With your queen. There's nothing for free here that you can capture. If you capture the pawns, I have a pawn. Like if you try to capture the pawn next to the on d4, I have a pawn behind that will capture your rook. So there's nothing for free. And there's,
what if I'm gonna move my bishop down?
Right. So unfortunately, this is a bad move. Actually, it's good because it fits in with the theme that I just showed you, so you'll understand in a second, I think.
So I did that, so you would move the bishop, or the bishop would be threatened. So I'm assuming this is still a bad move, but...
Well, do you see what's happening here?
You move the queen, and... Oh God, yeah, I'm basically allowing you to... Yeah, am I allowing you to basically form that line we talked about earlier?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's actually it's unavoidable. This is exactly. That's perfect. I get this line with the bishop and the queen.
Because I have nothing to put on b7. Hypothetically, if you were to go, would b7 be a good move for you with the queen?
That's my next move, and that's actually checkmate. Like there's nothing you can do to prevent it here.
Oh, exactly, because you have the bishop as the backup too. So even if I try to move the king, it won't let me. And then, well, you have the bishop with backup for the queen.
Right. So it's actually.
So I basically. Checkmate. Oh wow. Shit.
So yeah. This is kind of the end of the game.
Feels bad, man. So I guess, so even though I had King's Castle going, and then I moved the bishop, and then you had a clear opening when you moved the queen to e2.
Right. So I guess you can make a move, and then we can do this in the analysis this analysis board. I think.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I mean, I don't know. I can't
just make
seem
a move,
to make
I guess, but.
Oh, so I can't even move. Oh, okay. Well, all right. Let's see here. And that was the only move the king could make. Right. I had to move the king too, so.
Right, so let me just make the board. Okay, so... Alright, I guess just open that board.
Rematch, catch it.
Well, no, actually, I invited you to a board, because I want to show you exactly what you did wrong there.
Nah, for sure. I feel like there's something about... I mean, sure, this is like Wood League gameplay here, but there's something about analyzing what you've done in chess that is just like... So, wait, there's an accept button? Oh, down here.
Yeah.
There's something about it that's just like, it hits you in the face once you look at the mistake you made.
Right.
Or the mistakes you make. So...
Yeah, so okay, let me try to remember the moves first, because it was a kind of a random sequence of moves. So first of all, like if you'll notice, this one thing you want to do in the opening phase of the game is you want to push these pawns in the center, because what they do is then you create space, like your bishops can move behind the pawns. You create all this open space. Whereas at the beginning, if you think about it logically, let's just say I play something like this. What's happened here is that these pawns prevent this bishop from ever coming out into the game.
Yep.
So like what you normally want to do is you want to put the pawns in the center, like this.
Because you want just a clear path for your snipers, essentially.
Right, exactly. You want the clear path. And also, like, the bishop can attack this knight, again, from very far distance. So normally you want to
you said the bishop can attack the knight. Oh, yeah, okay,
yeah. It's attacking the knight here.
Even though, would that be worth doing? Even though the pawn would then follow up?
In this case, you probably don't want to, but you just keep an eye on this knight forever. And this is why the bishops are so good, because this knight, it can't attack this bishop. The bishop can attack the knight, but the knight can never come down and attack the bishop easily. It would take like one, I don't even know how, like 2, 3 to attack this one, or like, I don't even really know how it would attack this one, because it's so far away. But the bishop can attack things from long distance. So normally you want to put pawns in the center so that you can create the lanes for you can create the space. Your bishops have all the targets on the lanes, just going down the board. So that's the first thing. And also, it's important to know, like, if you look at these knights here, my knights guard these pawns. That's why it's very good to put the knights in the center of the board.
Oh, okay.
So, because, like, on the edge, the knight doesn't really create... The knight doesn't attack anything here. So it makes more sense to put knights in the center of the board. But let's keep going. So we traded the pawns, and then I took. And then you captured. Played here. I believe you went here. Now I captured and went here. And now you queenside castled, right? Yeah, you queenside castled. I believe.
Yo, Hikaru, dude, this has like been extremely interesting. I can't believe it's already been an hour, man. I feel like we just got started.
Yeah.
I just have a commitment right at 2.
Oh, right at 2? I didn't know you had something right at 2. Okay, I was going to wind it up anyway, but that's fine. Okay, all right.
Oh, dude, that was like... I feel like you opened a lot of my... It's crazy. Like, obviously, chess is an extremely, complex game, but I feel like there's so much...
Can I just give you one last thing? Just one last tip,
Yeah, of course.
So just one last tip I'm going to give you is generally when your king is here on this side of the board, don't push this pawn. Don't push the pawn and create weaknesses on this light square. Make sure that, for example, what you would do is just say go here, and you can even push this pawn up one, but don't push this pawn right here in front of the king and create this weakness on the square in front of the king. That's just the last thing.
That opened the weakness up as soon as I moved that pawn up.
Right. So that's just the one last thing I would add.
Okay.
Great.
I feel like what I did here is how I lost. Looking back when I was playing on my phone, trying to practice a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
That was one of the moves I did, and I always accidentally make an opening for my king.
Right.
And then that's how I lose, so.
Yeah, just keep the pawns around your king very close generally. That's the one last thing.
Okay.
That's just the last thing I would add, so. All right.
Yo, thank you very much, man.
Yeah.
Dude, 100%, man. I know I'm pretty bad at this, but I would love to for more information from you or whatever.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad you enjoyed it. No, it was a pleasure doing this with you. Thanks.
Yo, thank you very much, man. Chat, Hikaru.
No problem.
GM Hikaru. Yo, thank you though, man. Thank you for utilizing your time on me too, man. So thank you, man.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Oh, what do you think though? I need to practice a lot, but what do you think? I did get invited to this chess Twitch tournament.
Right. So that's the one last thing that I would say then. So on the left-hand side, you should see a puzzles tab as well.
Yeah.
And then you can click. So if you click puzzles and then puzzles again, you'll see the select mode comes up.
Yes.
And then instead of rated, leave it on training, but click on the learning.
Yeah.
And then you'll see all the puzzles. You'll see basically every possible attack or checkmate, and just basically turn it to learning and click start, and just like try to solve puzzles. That's what I would say is most important. Since you're
what
just
I've
beginning.
been doing, I've been just. Do you think this is better than just queuing and then trying to like figure out patterns through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to do a mix. So I would say like just doing like if you do like 10 to 15 minutes of puzzles and then you play a couple of games, that is going to be a pretty good balance. But it's going to be very hard to see the puzzles because when you're playing against people who are about the same rating as you, they're also not seeing the patterns as well. So because both players aren't seeing the pattern, it's going to be much harder to see something new in a way that it would be if you look at actual puzzles. But I would say you should do a mix of both.
Okay.
Are you going to play?
I'll definitely... Yeah, I mean, I'm totally gonna probably queue up and stuff like off stream and stuff like that.
Okay.
But training, I'll try this as well. I've been mainly practicing just literally pressing the 10+0 button or whatever, and then just like seeing what happens. But it's been like 0 wins, 15.
Yeah, that's the one thing I would say. Also, is when you start out, you're gonna lose a bunch of games because your rating, it starts out really high, like it's higher than it should be. So you're gonna lose at the very start. Pretty much regardless, but you're gonna find people at a certain point at the right rating range, and then you will win some games.
I got you. Oh yeah. So yeah, my bad. So the tournament, am I gonna play? I mean, what do you think? I mean, shit, man. I'm like, this is like chess. I feel like we're in the first week of the chess semester.
I mean, there are going to be a couple of other people who are very new to the game as well. I know at least one other person who's pretty new. So. I mean, I think, if you have the time to do some practice queuing up and just doing some puzzles, then I think it would be fun.
All right. Yeah, man. I mean,
no pressure,
fun.
though.
It'll be
no
an experience.
Pressure. Yeah.
You know what? How about this? I will, if I win 2 tonight by myself, I will have confidence.
Okay. Okay, cool. That's good.
And I'm gonna be hitting up these puzzles too. So.
All right.
Well, yeah. Yo,
Great.
Thank you though very much, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate
no
it, man. It's
problem.
very, very kind of you, man, for
Enjoyed
your
it.
time. So thank you, man.
Thanks. All right. Have a good show.
Have a good one, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye.